Hey guys, I'm Chef Kevin Gillespie, the owner of Redbeard Restaurants in Atlanta, Georgia, and today I want to walk you through the mysterious world of brining. Brining is a term that most folks are familiar with, but they don't necessarily know exactly what brining means, and that's because there's a lot of misnomers around what brining actually accomplishes. To launch right into this and to be very simple about it, a brine is a solution of salt and sugar in equal parts added into water. Generally speaking, the ratio is 1 part sugar, 1 part salt to 4 parts water. Now, that ratio can be altered depending on the length of time that something's going to stay in a brine, the volume or size of something, or generally the amount of saltiness that you want in the end product. Brining, at least wet brining as far as I'm concerned, is a really great application for something that you're going to cook for a long time, especially something where you can always benefit from a little bit of extra moisture. Pork shoulder naturally has a lot of intramuscular fat, tons of juiciness. Frankly, it rarely dries out, but if roasted at high temperatures to build a really nice sort of brown exterior, sometimes it can. And so a little bit of brining can actually add up to 30% more moisture to your cooked pork, which in my opinion is a win. So in this container, I have water, I have my salt and sugar, and then for me, I love adding some rosemary and a little bit of lemon to my brine. I think both of those flavors really complement pork. So let's take our pork shoulder and put it in here. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we get this submerged fully underneath the water. Now the herbs and the lemon and all that stuff, that'll naturally disperse on its own without any issue. We'll put the lid on this. Wet brining is an extended process, meaning that we have to take this and put it in our fridge for at least 12 hours, sometimes 24 hours. It just needs a little while for all of the stuff that goes on to take place. And frankly, the longer we leave it in there, the more intense it's gonna get. It's gonna get saltier, but it's also gonna draw in more flavors. So while that's doing its work, let's talk about something that's quite a bit easier. And it's this method that we like to call dry brine. Now, that sounds like a little bit of an oxymoron, but the thing is that dry brining accomplishes almost the identical thing that wet brining does, but it does it faster and on a smaller scale. So what I have in front of me right now are some pork cutlets. They've been cubed, like we're gonna make country fried steak or Swiss steak. And these really benefit from something like a dry brine. This is what I have in front of me here from my dry brine. I like to mix garlic powder, onion powder, cayenne pepper, black pepper, all into salt. The one thing you need to remember about dry brines is that it's not really the right place to add in herbs because herbs won't ever really quite infuse, and frankly, they can also burn depending on the cooking technique. So I find this is better used for dried spices. So just like we would normally do if we were seasoning with only salt, let's sprinkle from above, make sure we get both sides really well. And with dry brining, we do need an extended seasoning time, but nothing close to what we have with a wet brine. What I mean for this is that we could leave this in our refrigerator for maybe 2 hours, and that would be more than enough time to see a true osmotic reaction take place. And what I mean is that the water that's inside these pork cutlets is gonna come up to the surface, it's gonna mix with all of those seasonings, and it's gonna draw itself back in. So we're not gonna lose any moisture, but what we will do is draw that seasoning and the spices into the interior of this piece of meat. It also works really well in an application where we don't want to bring excess moisture, water in this case, into a dish. Something like deep frying, it might not be a great choice to use a wet brine. Or in our case, if we're gonna saute something and build a sauce in the pan, then we don't really want that water in there either. So to show you the final product of what these two things can do, I have in front of me a couple of different preparations. With our pork cutlet, we've done a sauteed cutlet in red wine sauce. Very simple, but one of those where we certainly don't want it diluted with any excess moisture that we would get from a wet brine. Plus, we would never achieve that nice golden brown exterior on our cutlet if we had wet brined it in the first place. So this brining has increased our moisture content on the inside of our meat here, meaning that it's gonna be a lot juicier, it's gonna be a lot more tender as well, but simultaneously, it's allowed us yet to still get this really nice golden exterior. So if we slice this open and take a look at it, look at this. It doesn't get a lot better than that, in my opinion. I mean, you could not ask for juicier meat, and obviously very tender. That's one of the benefits a lot of folks don't understand and brining is that it actually helps kind of break the protein molecules open a little bit. It makes them relax. And so what they do is they hold more moisture in, and they also naturally become more tender. So if you're trying to decide between brining and dry brining, keep it simple. Large cuts and long cook times benefit from wet brining. Short cook times and small cuts benefit from dry brining.